Great. Thank you very much. And, well, I will say hello in a different way because we will move on very rapidly to the subject for tonight. But to start things off, I want to share with you a little bit of Australia. And it is as follows. Cobber. And cobber means friend. It's a very genuine word for friend in Australia. So, hello cobbers. Bonza. I hope you have a bonza evening. That bonza means sort of enthusiastically good. So it'll be a short presentation, but hopefully it will be enjoyable and hopefully good discussion will come out of it. You know the subject area, and let me just get things organised here. I think I'm organised. There's a little bit of my background there, which I don't think spend too much time on. Particularly, Ankara's, I won't say it's a second home, but I have many friends in Ankara, and I've done a lot of work in Ankara with companies, Havelson, Selson, Rocketsan, Tay, amongst many others. So it's really lovely to be here at Ankara. I really love the city and the people. You know the subject, work breakdown structure, and what it isn't, to lead off, is a breakdown of work, which is a little bit strange. It's a funny name. It's not the best name in the world for it. What it is, and what it needs to be such a fantastic tool, is a product-oriented breakdown of the project. So it's actually a project breakdown structure that is organised, the structure itself is organised around products and services, deliverable products and services, and constituent products and services that result in delivery of the products and services or outcomes of the project. Now, the reason for emphasising product orientation is actually that so often the term work breakdown structure is interpreted to mean the breakdown of work, which basically means a breakdown of activities or services, whatever name you give to them. But it has to have an orientation that is a balance, in fact, of products and services. So even to say it to be product oriented is a little bit misleading on it's a bit of an overreaction to the often misunderstood nature of WBS. What it does do is relate the deliverable products and services to how we plan to create them, in the case of products, and deliver them or perform them in the case of services. And we're going to rapidly move on to do one of these. We'll bring this up and we'll build one of these carefully from scratch for a large complex project. Okay, that's basic stuff. What project? And we've talked about that. The last point can be for a program, in which case the first level of breakdown would almost certainly be on a project basis, but that's not necessarily the case. There can be exceptions to that. And at some level we come to an individual project with individual deliverables related to that project. Oops, we'll take that back one, because that's where we're heading. Let me see if I can get that. Yes. Our first entry is pretty easy. It's simply the project. And that project is defined by a number of outcomes that are required, products to be delivered, generally defined by requirements and other information, defining the product. So let's draw our project. Keep an eye on the time here. Okay. You'll sometimes see work breakdown structures with funny things at the top, like car or bicycle or aircraft or something like that. Well, that's really misleading. It is the project that is being broken down. And to do a few squiggles, we have deliverable products, deliverable services. Products can include data products, they could include software, they could include physical systems, pretty much anything. There are timing requirements, there are cost requirements, and a whole bunch of other things that are required that basically define the project. Now, to make this structure really useful in ways that I will describe, there are some really important steps and principles involved. The first thing we want to do is ask the question, what is this project to deliver? And essentially, what are the main deliverables, nature of deliverables? Let's start with a product-oriented project. We can equally start with a service-oriented one, but we'll start with a product-oriented project, since we need an example. So let's say the first answer to that question is 10 aircraft. And these are to be developmental aircraft. So we do an entry. What else? What other products is a project to deliver? And let's say another answer is a flight simulator, which is reasonable enough. Note that our project could equally be run the Olympic Games, which is no way limited to this particular sort of example. So, flight simulator. What else? Anything else? Or some logistics deliverables, which actually will be a mixture of products and services, but they'll be managed to a significant degree as a set. So we'll show them. Now I'm talking about things like maintenance services and spare parts, maybe maintenance test equipment, things of that nature. And there will also be a great deal of deliverable data that the customer for the project wants. They want to get copies of plans, they want designs, they want requirement specs of parts of the solution, they want all sorts of things. Weekly reports, monthly reports, weekly reports, whatever. And they're, let's say, required, we'll say it's a contractual situation, so they are required contractually. So we have deliverable data. Now this deliverable data element is defined to be incorporate incremental efforts to take what is produced for other reasons in other parts of the project and turn it into this deliverable form. So if it isn't required somewhere else in the project, then it includes all the efforts to create it. But if it is required, it's just the efforts to print it and put it in a FedEx mailer or something. Now, we've run out of product. What services? Well, this project is to deliver, let's say, aircrew training. And that is the only deliverable service. Next question. So we've had two questions. What are the deliverable products? We've recorded them. What are the deliverable services? We've recorded them. What services are to be performed in terms of the project that are required not only to create just one of these products or to perform or supply just one of these services? Now there's always at least one answer. It's always the same answer, and it is, of course, project management, of course. Ah, thanks. Yeah, a bit more light up the front would be good. Thanks. So this is an internal service. And there may be another answer, let's say, insurance. Now, if there were a lot of engineering to be done regarding the relationships between these various deliverable products, there could be another answer again, which could be in systems engineering or something like that. But in this case, that's not the case. Each of these things is defined with a good set of requirements. They are individual products that can be created, subject to some qualification shortly, from those requirements. And then the fourth question: what products are to be brought to bear that involve resources, money or other resources, that are not deliverable, but are nevertheless required to create more than one of these products or perform more than one of these services? And let us say the answer is a new factory. Now, the new factory is going to be used to produce the aircraft, but it's also going to be used to produce parts of the flight simulator and some of the things used in delivering aircrew training. That's pretty much the extent of it. But that's enough. So a new factory goes on. We'll start with the aircraft, since it's a product example, or product oriented. What products are to be created, brought to bear, to result in the delivery of these 10 aircraft? Now, for this particular development strategy, the plan is to develop the first article aircraft that is not deliverable. So it's used as a blueprint for developing production aircraft. So the first entry here is a first article aircraft. Now, if the intention was that be a deliverable aircraft, that would change this structure somewhat. Second answer: 10 production aircraft. Anything else? No. What services? Just something very simple: delivery. Anything else? No. Any products to be brought to bear that are not deliverable beyond the first article aircraft? No. Okay. First article aircraft. What products are to be created to create the first article aircraft, from which to build the first article aircraft? Now, one answer could be, well, we don't know, we haven't designed it yet. In which case we stop. In this path, we stop. This is an evolving structure that reflects our engineering and project management decisions, and we haven't made them yet, as far as... Now, at some point, of course, we have made it, and this can itself be evolving, but at some point, and I'll just throw these on very quickly. Let's say airframe, propulsion system, nav and comm system, entertainment system, flight control system, a few other things. Fit out with nice photographs of Richard Branson and things like that. Virgin Land or something. Okay, so these are the aircraft subsystems that it has been decided are going to be created and integrated to build the aircraft. So they're to be a part of the aircraft. What services? I'll draw aircraft system requirements analysis. Seeking to avoid the problems that are the most common cause of problems in major projects, which is developing or supplying the wrong thing. So we can fix that. We can spend, we get 100 to 1, 50 to 1 return on investment for that activity. So that's good. That's in our plans. And also aircraft system design at this physical level. Aircraft system design. Anything else? Well, absolutely. Another service, namely integration and assembly. But another one again, because these have to be certified viable, usable aircraft, these ones. So to get to that, we have flight test. We have qualification test. Now this is qualification in the sense of qualified for production. And also the incremental efforts beyond what we get out of this to achieve certification. Certification efforts. So we have two questions so far: products, services. Next question: what products that involve resources are to be brought to bear that are not required uniquely to create just one of these products, one of these subsystems, or perform just one of these services? Now, one answer is a new avionics laboratory. That also goes in the structure. Call it MAL. And also a wind tunnel. Now, I'm going to just leave a little bit of a gap. Where are we? We'll do this one. Down here. Somewhere down here we have a, let's say, a nav and comms computer software configuration item, a software product. And we won't have agile development, just in the interest of time. What products are to be created, brought to bear to create this nav and comms CSCI? Well, the first one is going to be build number one. That's the product. What services? Build two, which is the final build. Software design. Build two, code and unit test. Build two, integration. And build two, which is the software product, verification test. That's it. That's with the actual software as opposed to design verification. And we've got stuff before. So the combination of that build together with that work is going to result in that software. Now, next level down, how we get what products are going to be brought to bear to create that build? None. Services? Well, we're going to have overall software architecting, we're going to have requirements analysis, we're going to have a code and unit test for that first build. And when we ask the question, in addition to those services, what products that are not to be a part of the software, we get, let's say, a software development lab down there. I won't show you. Up here we have project management. To service. What services are to be brought to bear to result in the performance within the project of this project management service? Project planning, project administration, project control. In addition to these services, what products? Again, that involve resources and are not used uniquely to perform one of these services. And the answer, let's say, is a project management information system. And the second answer is a new Mercedes for the project manager. Of course! We're going to deserve it. So what we're seeing is a structure of products and services in products, and other ones, and services and products in services. But all focused on outcomes. Now, I'll use dollars because if I try to use anything else I'll mess it up. All the dollars in the project are in these, whatever the number is, level 2 elements. There are dollars, project dollars in the new factory, in the deliverable data, in the 10 aircraft, flight simulator is 6. All the dollars in the 10 aircraft are in the first article. The 10 production aircraft and in the cost of delivery. All the dollars in the first article are in the investment in the wind tunnel. Now, we'll keep it simple and not distinguish between investment costs and sort of project operating costs, which we actually would distinguish between them. And all the way across. So all the dollars in the first article aircraft are in that. All the dollars in this software here are in the cost to achieve the first build, and these activities here. We have a framework for costing. Now, every deliverable of the project up there, well, the project has a starting point, and every delivery has a schedule for delivery. And each of these elements here, these product and service elements, has a start and a finish with respect to creating it, the point at which its creation commences, and the point at which its creation has to have been completed for it to be consistent with meeting the schedules up here. So we have a type of framework for scheduling. As far as the 10 aircraft are going, we've got a framework for scheduling the development of the first article, scheduling production, and a small margin for planned delivery time, and so on all the way down. So we have a framework for scheduling. Now, everything that can go wrong in the project can go wrong in one of two ways. One is that one of these elements fails to get what it needs, what it's predicated on, some input from the world outside of the project. Let's say, for example, down here, to do this first build, we're relying on recruiting 7 jovial programmers. Now, the world supply of jovial programmers is about 3. So we've got this plan, and we try to find our jovial programmers, and we can't. So we haven't been able to get a necessary input, and we're going to delay, we're going to have to replan, we're spending money, but we're not getting results for it. So that's one way in which an element can go wrong. The other way an element can go wrong is with the right inputs, it's simply performed incorrectly. It's, for whatever reason, the job is not done properly. People make design errors that go undetected, or they build the wrong thing, or they buy the wrong thing, with all the right inputs. So we in fact now have a framework for risk analysis by looking at each of these elements, and of course the risk in each of these individually contributes, and together with the integration, which is already there, contributes to the risk associated with the realisation of this, which in turn contributes to the risk associated with the realisation of the 10 deliverable aircraft as required. So we have a framework for risk analysis. We have a framework for assignment of responsibility. We will have appointments or teams, sometimes teams with leaders, with team responsibility, sometimes individual responsibility for individual elements. There'll be somebody identified responsible for code and unit test, for example, or for the whole realisation of that build 1 down there. So we have a framework for assignment of responsibility. Now, as soon as we have a framework for risk analysis and for assignment of responsibility, we also have a framework for measurement and reporting. And through measurement and reporting and tracking trends, looking for changes, we are now giving ourselves giving ourselves a lot of opportunity to identify problems and exercise control through the combination of responsibility within an organisation structure of the elements and the corresponding analysis and reporting, or measurement and reporting. Now, we also have a framework for organisational design. One very popular organisational unit for moderately complex projects or higher is what is called an integrated product team. IPTs, integrated product teams, are empowered teams, generally smallish teams, several people, up to maybe 10 or 11 full-time people, and maybe with some part-time representation. Stakeholder participation in those teams, multidisciplinary, and tasked with taking a product from requirements through delivery of that product. Teams that work on a consensus basis of decision making, which essentially means that there's a lot of overall team responsibility and accountability, and a culture within the team of everybody carrying the can, so to speak. Now, for a project like this, well, perhaps let me just relate a particular project. Boeing, in their development of their 777 aircraft, used such a structure. They had 2,000 engineers working on that 777 aircraft project. They had 220 of these integrated product teams in a team-of-team structure. Well, we're going to just superimpose a structure here that would make sense. And what would make sense would be an IPT responsible for, yeah, right, what's that? That's what I'm looking for. Responsible for that, actually, that set of elements there. Now for the airframe, I'm sorry, let me just go back one. Let's take another one up here. Another one for the flight simulator. Another one for the logistics deliverables. Another one for aircrew training. Not there. Not there. An IPT for the new factory. Okay, now let's come down here. An airframe integrated product team responsible for taking the airframe from requirements, which come from the system team, to delivery of the airframe into the system integration. Propulsion system team, nav and comms team, entertainment system team, flight control system team. Let's say fit out is not going to be an IPT. Integration assembly will be a team, but not an IPT, but this group here will be. Now there'll be teams other than these integrated product teams, like the team that does that. Now, we have a framework for this aspect of organisation design. Let's have on the aircraft team somebody representing the new factory team. Because the new factory has to build these aircraft. There has to be a lot of mutual consistency between the two. We do not want, for example, $100 million building built for the wrong communication equipment, which happened in my country. $50 million spent gutting it because that liaison did not occur. So we have cross-team membership there. A lot of synergy between the flight simulator and the aircraft being simulated. So mutual cross-team representation there. The logistics team represented on the aircraft team and vice versa. The aircrew training team represented on the flight simulator team and vice versa, because they're going to use the flight simulator. The airframe team leader, a member of the overarching aircraft team. The propulsion system team leader, a member. So we've got some horizontal integration here of team membership, and we're now adding some vertical integration of team membership. That one as well. Now, the wind tunnel has just been bought, but the new avionics lab has been engineered, so we're going to have a new avionics lab team too. And we'll have the biggest one is going to be this one, flight control system. So we'll have the cross-team membership there. So we also have a framework for organisational design in terms of team membership, and we also have a framework for identifying stakeholders, which, amongst many purposes, also serves in defining participation in technical reviews, requirements reviews, design reviews. Now, in this whole structure, everything's being done the focal point of everything being done is in the realisation of the high level product or service. whether we're talking down here or right up the top here at the total project level. Now, by contrast, let's say we had a structure of engineering, test evaluation, software development, production, project management, and maybe one or two other things, a functional structure. Well, that can be really useful for activity-based costing, defining cost metrics, improving our cost metrics. But what it doesn't give us is anything that we have here. So what I've now fleshed out here is general principles of building good work breakdown structure. And the example, the questions I've been putting forward and answered myself have been for a project delivering 2 or more deliverables, products or services. There can be much simpler projects, which is a very small minority, where there's simply one deliverable from a project. And the PMI WBS guide has that, a bicycle, or just one service. And where that is the case, we have a somewhat different sequence of events. Guys, let me just invite any questions. That's a general offer for the next 15 minutes or so as we draw this together. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment about deliverable data here. I prefer to put deliverable data under other activities because they are the byproducts actually. For example, SRS is the byproduct of SRA here, or SDD is the byproduct of SD activity. Therefore, when you also think about activity-based costing, etc., they are actually costs of the other activities and also outcomes of the other activities. Therefore, I prefer to put deliverable data under every activity that produced them.
Yeah, I would put deliverable data under that activity, but this is not all that work that you described. The work that you described is exactly where you described it. This is only the incremental effort to turn it into deliverable data from what has been produced anyway. And that might be just printing the copies and the cost of getting to the customer. That's all that is. So only if it's data that isn't generated down here or here for the purpose of carrying out the rest of the project, does that involve any development of new data there? So I couldn't agree with you more. Now, guys, any other questions? Okay, we need to move quickly. And to do that, we'll see, this is interesting. We also need to get the image back. Anybody know how to do that? Hello. Oh, okay. Let's come back anyway. Yeah, we're good. Okay, let's move on. Folks, if anybody would like a copy of this presentation, then there's some mechanism in the little folder thing for you to request that. In the folder, there is a lot of the folders have a sort of form, but some of them just have a blue sheet of paper because we had an accident, and so we don't have all the inquiry forms. But if anybody would like a copy of this, just let me know. One way or another, you should have the contact details there somehow. Now, just to draw with some background data on WBS to a closure, we've discussed the purpose of WBS pretty much, so not much to add there. A little bit more detail at the nuts and bolts level, particularly on the technical list. The structure itself is the main obvious artefact, but in fact WBS must have 2 major components to it. One is a scoping definition of each of these elements that accompanies the basic index in a graphical or hierarchical structure. Now, the aim of this scoping structures or scoping definitions is to just unambiguously identify where any dollar that is spent or any hour that is spent belongs. Another example here, there was some point I wanted to make regarding that, but I can't recall what it was, so we'll move on from that. But we have the corresponding indebtedness structure here. Here's an example of one of these dictionaries. It isn't necessarily necessary to have these sort of subordinate elements. They come out of the structure, and in fact it means that you have to design the system or the element to incorporate that data. So that's one possibility. What is actually much more valuable is incorporating this structure interfacing elements, because then when you go to the WBS element, and then the organisational element responsible for that WBS element, that is an interfacing element, you get the details of the stakeholders who should be participating in this cross-team working, because they're stakeholders in our element. If that makes sense. We're talking about product orientation. We don't need to go into that anymore. Here's a reasonable example, again, of product orientation. You see products and services again, organised in structure. The contrast used with a functionally oriented structure, which has all those issues that we discussed of not providing what the product oriented structure does. So basically functions, services at level 2 and mostly below. We've pretty much discussed that, it's just there for completeness. Here's the record of the development logic that we've just used. I mentioned the development logic is different if we have just one product deliverable, and there it is. Now, we don't need to go into the detail of it, but for anybody who wants a copy of this, that detail will be in the presentation. And if there's one deliverable service, for example, only, I don't know, cleaning windows or something, then the logic for development of the structure is a little different again. So exactly the same principles, but slightly different questions. There can be reasons, good reasons, to depart from these strict, to regard these as being immutable rules. If you have very small elements, there is an overhead associated with them that will exceed the benefit of having those elements as individual elements. So in that case, we would aggregate elements or associate them with something that was meaningful, but fell short of the exact application of the principles we've discussed. Similarly, if we have work that's highly interactive, of which project management is a very good example, even though it makes an input to lots of different elements, the fact that it's highly interactive and ubiquitous makes it appropriate to aggregate it and put it as a high-level element, not associated with the individual multiplicity of elements that it is applied to. Long projects with clearly defined stages or phases. The phases or stages, as long as they're clearly defined deliverables, themselves make good level 2 elements, and then what we've got at level 2 behind the screen here may be at level 3 in that situation. And then the last illustration is where the work is very repetitive, there's very little integration between work tasks, and the example of detailing a fleet of cars is an excellent example. So rather than having each car, which is the actual thing delivered, as the basis of the elements, the activities of, say, internal detailing, external detailing, engine cleaning, that sort of thing would make more appropriate elements. There is quite a lot in print about work breakdown structure of highly variable quality. Probably this standard on work breakdown structure, US Department of Defence, has done more damage to the human race than any other standard in the history of mankind. It is really terrible. It's creating huge costs and huge delays in projects by creating a standard structure for counting the cost overruns caused by imposing a standard structure. So one of the major principles of work breakdown structure is that it should always be approached from first principles for the specific project and the specific plans of that specific project. Trying to force template structures onto non-standard projects is a recipe for destroying the value of a WBS and leaving a vacuum of all those things that we mentioned in its wake. And that's what's happened to this thing. a little bit on strengths and weaknesses there. It's not totally without value. Some of the scoping definitions for some of the service elements are actually useful starting points for tailoring for our own projects. There's a more recently issued 881C, reincarnated. It's not very good, but it's not that bad either. It certainly has more merit than the 881B. But there's a little bit there just summarising the areas of weakness as well as what's useful about it. It's, you wouldn't want to use it, to put it that way, but you can get some useful content from it. Now, this sounds very parochial, but believe it or not, by far the best WBS standard comes out of Australia, and there are a lot of people, even if they weren't, I would still say it, there are a lot of people who share that view. And it's this one. If anybody would like a copy of that, I'm happy to send it to you. And although it has a couple of peculiarities, which reasons for them, it has a lot of merit. The basic principles that it puts forward are really, really good. The second edition of the PMI practice standard is very much mixed reviews. The first edition really missed the point totally, and to credit PMI rapidly responded to that. But the second edition, I would describe as very good in explaining the use and the value of WPS, and it's very clearly written, but it really fails to capture the essence of the necessary orientation. It's really unfortunate that the example it chooses to use through the standard, or the guide, or practice standard, of a bicycle is a really minority example. And so it's all this high quality effort put into a really bad example that is also not representative of real projects, because it's just one physical product with nothing else. So that's really unfortunate. The standard can be improved a lot by replacing that diagram with a different version, which fixes at least some of the major relationship problems. But of course it would also require a significant amount of rewriting of the text associated with the diagram. And a replaced version would look like that, where you have a number of credible, necessary project activities to create a bicycle at level 2, where you have the principle of the activities that go into creating an object, a product or service, as a part of that element, followed, which they're not followed with the bicycle diagram. They're partly followed, but they're not adequately followed, and there are conspicuous problems with the preceding diagram in that respect. Product breakdown structure is a term that's useful, gets a fair bit of use, and it's in fact embedded within the project breakdown structure or work breakdown structure. The things that are the elements that are used to build the product are a subset of the elements within the structure. The term system breakdown structure gets wide use. That's more than the product breakdown structure usually. One needs to be very careful not to see a system breakdown structure as simply another term for product breakdown structure. A system breakdown structure is a design artifact, and so for, let's say, an air traffic control system, the atmosphere between a radar and an aircraft will be in the system breakdown structure, but it won't be in the product breakdown structure, nor will it be in the project or work breakdown structure. We've talked about integrated product teams. We don't need to add anything there. The very widespread and appropriate concept of the use of work breakdown structure, so-called, is that at levels we allocate, we assign control, cost control, and then allocate work under cost accounts to bits of organisation. If it's a product-oriented organisational structure, there's a lot of alignment between the WBS elements and the organisational breakdown structure and these assignments of work. If it isn't, then it's much more a mapping. Some further hints. Let's run through them really quickly. Got that one? Dictionary of God. If we're building one, work through the project, work through any requirement specifications for deliverable statements of work for deliverable services, or for that matter internal services, make sure we've got consistency between the deliverables and the structure that we've built. Generally, if we're going to subcontract, do things so that we have the scope of a subcontract to be one or more elements in our structure. We can aggregate elements within the subcontract, but having parts of elements subject to subcontracting generally is much less efficient. So multiple elements per contract or subcontract is a possibility. Don't make the scoping dictionary statements requirement specs. They're just scoping statements. Cost schedule information linked to the WBS, but not a part of it. But it is sort of very unstable, very changing with time, and it really doesn't play a role directly in the purpose of the WBS anyway. If it's forced on us, and sometimes this is the case, many contracts are written forcing a work breakdown structure on a contractor, then look very, very carefully at what is being forced on us. It may be signing a death warrant if it's a bad structure being forced. And that's the case with so many US Department of Defence contracts. Cover that one. And of course this is evolving structure, it's a living thing, unless we have a really low risk, planned and end-to-end project, which occasionally happens, but not most. We've covered that. I don't think we need to summarise more there.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, any questions? Or any discussion across the room as well as up here?
Great. Thank you.
Well, we'll now do a WBS for coffee.